This is a HeadGum podcast.
Welcome to the Jeff Rubin Show. Today we are coming to you from Jeff Rubin Studios with Scott Wiener from Scott's Pizza Tours. Scott, welcome back to the show.
It is super awesome to be on this show right now, I'm telling you.
Scott, let's catch everyone up. This is your third or fourth visit to the podcast. You were one of the second or third episode. I think it was the third one I posted, but the second one I recorded, if I'm remembering correctly.
I love how you remember that all the time, and on all your episodes when it's somebody who's been on before, you're like, I recorded it third, but I played it fourth.
Yeah, it's really important to me. But no, yours is actually very easy to remember because it is it's like one of the first two or three. And I know exactly what the first. It was Anna Monoguchi and you and Gabrus, and I did you guys like before I did anyone else. Like that was a set. And anyway, but the reason, of course, it's memorable is that I would actually say that you and your pizza tour provided something I didn't know, which was like a model for future guests, which is like insane people who are obsessed with weird things and have turned it into harnessed that and turned it into something cool and positive. You are in many ways the model Jeff Rubin Show guest. So let's see, you were on that first time, talked about the tour, who you are, blah blah blah. So that's like kind of your if you want background about Scott. And Justin Ouellette was on the podcast last week, and that's like episode 8 or something. I gave this exact advice.
I just listened to that episode.
I'm now hearing myself. Okay. You were on another time, maybe in the 50s or 60s or so. We talked about your pizza box collection. When your pizza box book came out, we did a whole episode about pizza boxes.
Did that one at my apartment.
There was another one we did where we talked about the pizza convention. I think that was like a double header. There was like 2 people in that episode back when I used to do that or something. So you've been on at least a few times. And don't forget, last year we did that video that's on my YouTube channel that people should go watch where we tried the pizza in a pizza box made of pizza.
Right here in the room we're sitting in right now.
That was at Jeff Rubin Studios. Now we are back for sort of a general catch-up. Let me tell you the agenda for today. Let me tell you what I want to talk about. 1, we got some pizza news. Just pizza news from the past year, pizza updates, what's going on with pizza. 2, I want to talk about your trip to Naples. You had a very interesting trip to Naples that we have to talk about. 3, there is a feature-length documentary about you that I just watched, and we definitely got to talk about that. And 4, I want to talk about Slice Out Hunger and your other charitable efforts. But for those who are not going to listen to this advice and go back and listen to the old ones, who are you? What do you do?
Okay, so I run a company called Scott's Pizza Tours. We take people on tours of like famous and significant pizzerias around New York City. You go in, you check out the ovens. Of course, you eat a slice of pizza. But the real crux of it is by the end of the tour, you have a better understanding for what is wood-fired brick oven pizza, what is coal-fired, what is gas-fired, what am I eating, why is it different from that other slice, why do I like it?
And before we move on from the tour, which we've just discussed a lot on the show, I'm just curious, like, that episode was almost 6 years ago now. What's different about the tour than was 6 years ago? And you've been doing the tour...
Now it's been over 9 years.
Over 9 years.
We've had over 50,000 people on the tour.
At that time, it probably was like, oh, I've been doing this 3 years. I'm really an expert at it. But I bet looking back now, you're like, oh, I didn't know any. I'm sure you've learned a lot in the past. What's different about the tour now than when we first spoke 6 years ago?
Well, now a big difference is there's a bunch of us that do it. I think back then it was just me or I had one other person. So now there's like 7 of us who do it.
You've scaled it.
Yeah, well, there's just more guides who like... There's a bigger team of people.
And you know what actually is impressive? I don't remember how. I think I wanted to send the link about your tour to someone, and I went to the TripAdvisor page or the Yelp page, and I noticed that a lot of the reviews were like people who are not Scott or Oz. Like Aaron was, I don't know their names, I'm sorry, but like Miriam, I know Miriam is like all the reviews were talking about how great these new people are. How do you find? I mean, you are a very singular person. How do you find other people to, it's Scott's Pizza Tours. How do you find other people to represent you? That must be very challenging.
It's super tough because a lot of people want to only go on the tour that I'm doing because I foolishly named it after myself. That? Yeah, definitely. Well, I regret it and I don't regret it. In a way, it's helped personalize it and it's way more attractive than something general like New York Pizza Tours. But in another way, people always ask, oh, is everybody else named Scott? And they're not. Miriam, Alexis, Ted, Joan, Mike.
So how do you find those people?
So, okay, first of all, I don't look for people who are exactly what I am. So I don't want to find somebody, well, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't say like, well, you have to do all the things that I do. It's more like I want to find somebody who's just super interested in everything, inquisitive, never satisfied with just the information that they'll read in a book somewhere. And they have to have a personal connection with pizza.
Do you audition them?
There's like, well, you know, we'll sit down, we'll have a phone call first. So they send in an email, you know, resume and whatever.
Where do you post the job listing?
We'll post it on Good Food Jobs is a cool one because it's people who care about food. We'll do a Craigslist post just in case.
I bet you get some interesting folks.
We
that
do,
way.
but you know, like a lot of it goes through. Like I have a director of operations who I did not have.
Yeah, that's new too.
6 years ago. She's been doing it for 3 or 4 years now, but it'll go through her. Then she'll filter it down to a spreadsheet. She'll be like, these are the cool people. I've highlighted the ones who are really cool. Then I call them to see if they're sane. And if I say like, oh, like tell me about the last slice of pizza you had. I'm just curious. And if they just say like, it was okay. It was $1 slice. It was no big deal. No thanks. I don't want them. But if they say, and it's not about the $1 slice, by the way. If they say, oh yeah, it was like, you know, it was like late at night and I just went to this $1 slice place, but there was this magical moment where this homeless guy asked this, you know, guy in a really nice suit to pass the pepper flakes, and they just shared this moment, and I realized that pizza is the great equalizer. Like if they go into something deeper, then I'm like, okay. If they could tell me a story,
Then that's.
then I want to meet them in person.
Do you remember any stories that any of your pizza
Well,
tour
yeah,
guides told you?
like Alexis, the guy. He was a guy who was on a tour with my other guide, Joe. And Joe called me after the tour, and he said, "Hey, I had this guy on the tour today. He was really on it. He knew what he was talking about. Really passionate. You know, you should maybe think about talking to him." And I never said, "Hey, Joe, I want to hire somebody. Look out." Joe just knows that if there's somebody cool, pass him on. The only time I ever hire somebody is when we find somebody great. It's never because we need to hire somebody. Because you know, I don't need to. I don't want to expand unless there's somebody to do it.
It
So
is an
he was
insane
there.
business you've built. I hope you don't mind me saying. And like I think the reason it works as well as it does, and the reason it's worked so well for you for so many years, is because it's so fucking good and it's so great, and everyone who goes loves it. So like the quality is paramount. Like if you start giving tours if there's Scott's Pizza tours that are anything less than great,
Yeah.
I think word will get out.
Like, for instance, there are tours that I want to add to our list, but I can't unless there's somebody who I just stumble upon who's great.
Word of
So
mouth
Alexis,
is probably most. Is that right? Is that word of mouth a lot of your business?
Oh, yeah, totally.
What
But,
about-
So with that guy, by the way, with Alexis, I remember I sat down and we talked, met him in person for the first time, and I think I said something like, what was pizza for you, like, growing up? Like, what part did it play in your life? And I don't need to hear somebody say, oh, my mom made pizza every night. I just want to know what it was. And for him, it was like something. He grew up in Newark, and I think he like took the bus home from school, but the bus would only take him so far, and then his mom would have to pick him up, and it would drop him off right near where there was this pizzeria, and he would hang out there and wait for her. And he said, like, the benches that you sat on, like, the smell of it, like, it just meant something to him that was like comfort and safety. And he told me that, and I was like, awesome. I don't want to hear somebody just say, oh, I love Defara, I went there once, end of story.
Yeah.
You know?
What about? So that's over the past 6 years, you've scaled up, you've gotten more people. What about like the past year? Like what's new in the tour business recently?
Oh, with the tour, well, we're amping up for like a new tour product,
What's
which is
that?
going to be cool. This is like a big thing.
I don't know about this.
I know.
Most of the time, I'm just sitting here playing dumb about stuff you've already told me about. This is genuine news to me. I'm very excited about what you're about.
Yeah, we're doing this partnership with Italy.
Oh, Italy! What's Italy? Just
Italy
you're gonna
is
describe better
this.
than I will.
Italy is this incredible educational Italian super extravaganza shop.
It's like a food. It's like a food court almost, but like high end.
It's like
would that be a way to describe it?
It's basically like the small production stuff, all imported, all really high quality Italian, super curated in this big grocery store situation.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been there
with
once.
fresh foods and packaged food.
Okay, so what's going on there?
So we're doing this thing called, I'm going to call it the Experience Italy Pizza Tour, where it's like, we're going to do it in Italy downtown, where they have Rosso Pomodoro, which is a Neapolitan pizzeria. That'll be a stop where we talk about like the original format of pizza coming from Southern Italy. And then we'll do some tastings of like tomatoes that they sell, plus stuff that we're going to bring in, like California tomatoes. We'll do an olive oil tasting there. We'll do fresh mozzarella, watch them make it. We'll do a tasting of buffalo mozzarella versus cow's milk. Then we'll do a tasting of pizza alla palla, which is like sort of like a Roman style of pizza that's kind of puffy and thicker and square. It's not quite like Sicilian pizza. It's much less greasy than that, but along the same lines, it's super bready. And then we might do a pizza frita, like a fried pizza there. So it's all stuff within that one building, within the one room, right by World Trade Center, with tastings, super awesome small group kind of thing.
What inspired you to do a tour of just one building?
Well, I noticed that I've known them and the ownership for years, and so I would email the owner about stuff every once in a while. And then when they opened the downtown location, their bread program is really serious. Like every one of their stores all around the world, and I think they have like 20 of them maybe, they each have a theme. And the theme for the downtown one, right by World Trade Center, the theme is bread. And I'm super into bread. And bread is pizza's all about being a bread. So that single location has an amazing focus on bread. And they have bakers who are really great. I just knew that we can get into the depth that I want to get. We can like pull their starter out. We can taste the starter, talk about what that even is, talk about dough. And like, I just feel like we can get more educational there than anywhere because they carry this amazing stuff. Their whole goal is education. So I took a couple of their marketing people on my tour just to show them like, this is what we do. I'm not just another tour who wants to like infiltrate your space. This is what we do. I think your store is a great venue to do this.
So when does that launch?
We're going to do a test run of it on June 29th, and then we'll probably start having it on our schedule in mid to late July.
Cool. So pizza tour business, always moving forward, always something new there.
Yeah.
One thing where I'm transitioning here into the pizza news segment of the show. One thing you were in the newspaper for pretty recently, you were in the Washington Post talking about the new pizza box that is at Apple headquarters in Cupertino, I guess.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
So what's going on here? Apple developed a pizza box for their internal cafeteria, and I guess the patent leaked and was put out, or I don't know, someone heard about it, and it's an interesting pizza box. Tell us about the box.
Yeah.
What's your take?
So I feel like the Jeff Rubin Show listener has seen this box. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's
like,
possible.
Sometimes I mention it on a tour, and I'm like, well, you guys have all seen this in the news the whole last week.
Well, it kind of went a little viral, right?
It totally.
Like, it was like a thing.
It's like in my universe, like it's all I read about. I didn't know what was going on with like the president of the United States for like a week because all I heard about was that thing.
Yeah, this was the big
box.
news.
Yeah, it was a big deal. So here's what it is. Here's what happened. First of all, I think it's been out since 2012 or 2013. It's not like a brand new thing.
Got caught. Okay.
I believe what happened is that there's a new Apple. I saw these buildings being built even like a year or two ago when I was out there. And so I think this is like a new campus or a new part of the campus. And they did some kind of press release or some kind of unveiling about here's all the cool stuff we've got going on. And part of what they mentioned was, and in the cafeteria, we have our own designed and patented pizza box. And it was probably to them like a joke or the smallest thing ever, but it's what everybody picked up on because it's funny and weird.
Yeah.
And maybe all the other stuff they had was kind of like old news. I don't know. All I heard about was the box. So
So you, and I alluded to this earlier, are literally the Guinness World Record holder of the largest pizza box collection record. You wrote a book about pizza boxes. You are almost certainly the world's pizza box expert who does not work in the pizza box industry. What were you impressed? Were they really doing something new here?
Bottom line is I was not impressed.
Ooh.
And this is the fun part because I got a box the other day. I got one.
Oh, yeah.
I scored it. And I like maybe a dozen people contacted me and said like, I can get you one. And I love it. I want as many as I can get because I want to do tests on them. And, it's cool. For the collection, it's cool. But here's what it is. First of all, there's no like high-tech gadgetry to it. It's paper. It's like anything else. But it's round. It's a clamshell. So there's a hinge on one side and there's a clasp on the other side. The bottom of it, the base of it, is it has these peaks and valleys. So the pizza will sit on that and moisture can escape. That's very cool. A standard pizza box can't really have that. You can buy them. You can buy little inserts that give you room for moisture to escape, but this is a contraption that already has it built in. Then the lid has a circle of vents kind of toward the center of the pizza where the cheese and tomato are
Like
located.
concentric circles?
No, just like one circle of holes.
Okay.
Maybe it's like 12 or 16 holes or something like that. And, so steam can escape. So the idea is that...
How big is this? This is like a 12-inch pie, right?
Yeah, I think it's 12 to 14 inch, something like that. The idea behind this box is that it will keep the pizza drier and crunchier, which I'm sure it does, because it's meant for the Apple campus. It's meant for you go and get one pizza, you bring it back to your little capsule or wherever you work, I don't know.
Which is different than delivery.
Yeah, because with a pizza box, you stack them. So if you have vents on the top, once you put a second pizza on it, you block the vents. So
that's not practical for most people.
Nah, not really practical for the real life situation. But for their world, it's probably great. And for some reason, they decided, I don't know if that it was cheaper to do it this way, or somebody had an idea to do it, and they're Apple, and so they figured, why the heck not? And I'm sure that they have 10 billion patents for things that,
right.
like a doorstop or
but
something.
You think that pizza box experience would be superior to just, a standard box of cardboard?
It would, but it assumes that you're not leaving a building, that you're only carrying one.
Even in that situation, it's superior to the standard solution.
You got a cafeteria in your office space, and you have a pizza box. This is probably better than a normal pizza box.
All right, I want to talk about Pizza Trend Watch. These are larger trends happening in the pizza community, in pizza society, across the world, across America. I'm not going to pretend I came up with these. I asked you what are some Pizza Trend Watch topics we could do, and you gave me two. Detroit-style pizza, you tell me, is getting very big, and cup and char pepperoni. And I was like, cup and char pepperoni? And you acted... you were surprised I had not heard of it. You were surprised that it didn't come to me to put that on the list. So let's do both of those. You have one you would want to tackle first?
It's just really funny because a lot of times these are things like, to me, are kind of old news.
Yeah.
But then to normal humans, that like when people ask me every day on the tour, like, what is this Detroit style? And I'm like, where have you been for the past 6 months?
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on, just to do sort of a general catch-up, because there are all these cool things. Everyone loves pizza, but not everyone is in tune with the day-to-day pizza news cycle somehow. So that's why we have you on the show, to kind of let us know what we're missing.
Let's jump into Detroit style first.
Okay. How recent a how behind are we here, Scott, if we're not into Detroit style pizza?
Well, we're like 60 years behind.
But as a recent phenomenon?
Well, so, okay. If you live in Detroit, and if you have lived there since the 40s, this is what you would just call pizza. Mm-hmm. But of course, because of the internet, and because now there's you don't have to just go to Detroit to eat it, for the past, I'd say maybe 8 years or so, Detroit style has left Detroit. And here's what it is. I'll explain what it is, and then we'll go into kind of why it's going places. It is a pan-baked pizza, which is baked in a thin steel pan that the sides are angled.
Angled out.
Angled out, exactly. So instead of in New York, we have Sicilian pizza, which is pizza baked in a pan. You put some oil in the pan, you push the dough out, you let the dough rise up, and then you top it and bake it. And it's sort of like a focaccia with topping on it. Detroit style is similar to that. The big difference is that the pan is much deeper. So the dough will not go beyond the top of the pan like it does in Sicilian. So that means that when you put cheese on it, the cheese will rest against the edge of the pan. With a Sicilian pizza, the cheese cannot go all the way out to the edge, so you get a crust that you can hold on to. With Detroit style, the cheese goes all the way out to the edge.
It's like an infinity pizza.
What do you mean?
Like an infinity pool, but with pizza.
Oh, so where where the water goes over the edge.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in one?
No.
Okay. It's my dream to be in one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
It's my dream to eat one,
I'm talking about the pool.
Me too. We're good. We're good. Keep going.
So it's like the infinity pool thing, except for the difference is when the pizza bakes, the cheese that's up around the edge of the pan burns, it caramelizes and burns. So you get this kind of crunchy crown of cheese around the outside. Then they put the sauce on this pizza after the cheese. So it's on top of the cheese, usually in stripes. They'll refer to it as Detroit Red Top Pizza. The sauce is on top of it.
And that's how all pizza in Detroit works.
That's how...
Most
well,
pizza?
I mean, you can go to a pizzeria that has round pizza, but when I say Detroit style, I mean the pizza that's the genetics of it are from Detroit.
Okay.
Just like the New York slice, that's not all pizza in New York, but that's the pizza that was birthed in New York.
Okay, so but now over the past 8 years or so, you're telling me Detroit style pizza. It's spread.
There's a place in Telluride, Colorado called, I think it's called Brown Dog Pizza. He's the guy, Jeff Smokovich, has a couple of different places, and he makes the stuff awesome. This guy Sean Randazzo has a place that I forget where it is, but he's always in competitions. He always makes Detroit style, and now we got one in your neighborhood in Brooklyn.
Really?
Yeah, Emmy Squared.
Oh,
that's Detroit style.
Oh, Emmy Squared is good.
Yeah.
Emmy Squared is really good.
I'm sorry. Let me correct it. That is what they would prefer to call it, Detroit-inspired pizza.
Right, because that's like they do like weird, interesting topping stuff. So for those that haven't eaten, what is the effect when you eat it? What does it taste like compared to regular
So
pizza?
it's got sort of like, and I mean this in the best way possible, like a Pizza Hut crust.
Oh, yeah.
You
When
know
you were
what I
talking
mean?
about pan-baked pizza, I was thinking about Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Because that's what Pizza Hut was, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
It's like...
So it's sort of like Pizza Hut, but maybe...
It's a classic
grown
Pizza
up a little?
Hut. Yeah, it's a grown-up pizza. I mean, it's going to be really high hydration, so it's a really wet dough, so it's light and airy, and you'll get that crunch around the outside. The bottom will be a little bit greasy. And the top, I mean, I want to say salty, but that's just because all of it that I've had has been kind of salty.
And what kind of toppings?
Part of that is because they used white cheddar. They usually use like white cheddar or brick cheese, so it's not mozzarella, usually. And then for toppings, it's like, pepperoni, peppers, onions, like what I call normal pizza toppings.
Yeah, nothing insane.
Nah, at Emmy Squared, it's a little bit funnier.
Yeah, they do some funky stuff there, but it's all very good. What's one of the ones they do there?
Oh, well, they do there's like a truffle honey one. There's a vodka sauce one, which I don't know if your listeners all know, but like vodka sauce it's essentially tomato and cream and a little bit of vodka, and you cook it, the vodka cooks off, and it leaves this like rich, creamy, tomatoey sauce.
I like vodka sauce. That sounds good.
I love it.
What about cup and char pepperoni? What's going on there?
So that's one that you will also find, I think, at Emmy. I think, yeah, they're using all cup and char pepperoni. So back in the day, the origin of pepperoni in the 1920s is that they would use it's a natural casing salami. Like a salami or a sausage of any sort is packed in a casing, right? It's usually like an animal, what do you call it?
Intestine?
Yeah. I'm pointing toward my intestine right now. Okay, so it's like an animal intestine. So back in the day, they were using this normal natural casing for sausages and salamis like pepperoni. When you bake a slice of that pepperoni, because the casing is natural, it will seize up and it will shrink, which forms a little cup. So even 20, 30 years ago, that was not acceptable. Consumers wanted something that stayed flat, so the industry shifted to an artificial casing. Now we're going back to liking the natural casing, which means that the pepperoni kind of cups up. It forms a little chalice. The oil kind of collects in the inside, and they look spectacular when you just see like a flood of these things on a pizza. Prince Street Pizza.
Prince Street Pizza is what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's a big one. And since they started doing that, now a lot of people are getting into that.
Is that just in New York, or is that happening nationwide?
Nationwide. But a lot of it is like the rock filling the water in New York, and now the ripples are elsewhere.
What are some other spots around the country?
Well, and it's funny because when people come to New York for pizza events or just to like scout out places, that's one thing that they're all like calling me up. They're like, what pepperoni are they using? What's the deal? I got to get it by me. So Tony Gemignani from Tony's in North Beach in San Francisco.
Oh, that's a good pizzeria.
Like he saw that and he was like, whoa, I got to get on this thing. So he started doing it. And once he starts doing something, then everybody else wants to do it. And also like other big focal point people in the pizza biz. John Arena in Las Vegas at Metro Pizza. He's doing and he's not only doing them. He's doing the flat kind and the cupping kind. I mean, everybody I can think of right now is getting into it.
What about internationally?
I don't see it internationally yet, but that's because you won't really see pepperoni in most of Italy, particularly southern Italy. But you will see the cousin of pepperoni, like the classier, older, cooler cousin, soppressata.
Soppressata.
Which is a salami, which is related to sausage. They're all in the same ball. Like salamis and sausages, it's all like, let's throw a bunch of stuff. We'll grind it up so you can't really tell what it is. Put it into a tube, and then we'll either cure it or we'll cook it or we'll smoke it. Or that's all those Italian meats are different versions of that.
Is there a type of pizza that you would like to see kind of catch on? Is there something that you think's kind of ready to fidget spinner and catch on in the wider world?
I'm so glad that now I know what that reference even means.
Yeah.
And now I see them on 6th Avenue.
They're everywhere now.
I stop on my bike at that one light at like 28th Street, and then the guy's always selling them, and I always play with one while I'm at the light.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Okay, so to answer your question, I feel like this Roman pizza al taglio or a pizza alla pala.
Tell me about that.
Where it's a pizza by the slice, but it's a puffier, almost like a focaccia, with like fancier, lovely, fresh toppings. Yeah. It's starting to catch, but it's slower than I would have thought.
Where do you see that catching on?
In cities, places with foot traffic. I could even see it in like downtown areas of, like towns where there's a little bit of money going on, like Aspen, Colorado. I feel like there's got to be something like that where you can go in and grab a little slice. New York definitely has a couple, but not enough yet. But parts of California, downtown LA, I don't know why there's nothing going on in like Beverly Hills.
Yeah. Well, LA and pizza, I mean.
Yeah, but it's not because there's anything about LA that prevents good pizza. I know people who in LA who make amazing pizza like in their homes, or they have like little like personal businesses.
So it's not the water thing, it's just like not part of the culture.
Yeah.
I think we covered that in a previous podcast. All right, let's talk about international pizza. I've been teasing it. Let's talk about your trip to Naples. Because you didn't just go to Naples on vacation, though I think you've done that in the past. This was a business trip, sort of. I mean, describe the circumstances under which you went to Naples.
First of all, Naples is the origin point for pizza. That is, if you are a pizza fan, you go to New York and you're psyched. Okay, cool. Maybe you go to New Haven, Connecticut. Cool. Naples is the spot. So I've been there before.
Is that historically, or the pizza today is the best?
Historically. So that's where, that's where pizza begins. Naples. Oldest pizzerias, first pizzerias, everything. So I've been before, and every time I go, it's like part vacation, part, hey, I got to check out these historic places. This one was different. So this one, there is a flour company, a like baking flour company called Caputo. And they've been in Naples since 1924. Still the same family runs it, and it's this amazing mill, and they mill what's called 00 flour. 00 is a number that refers to their extraction, which means that let's say you grind down a piece of wheat, and the stuff that you sift out of it, let's say you sift out like 50% of it, and you're left with the other 50%. It's called 50% extraction. If you're left with 100%, you don't get rid of anything. That's 100% extraction. 00 means it's really low extraction, so it's very pure and soft, and so they make that kind of flour. It's really popular, especially in America. They were in America when this whole Neapolitan thing was kicking off like 15, 20 years ago.
It's
huge.
What's the whole Neapolitan thing?
I mean, Neapolitan pizza is this big, huge wave craze. You go in, wood-fired oven. Oh, they import all their tomatoes. Oh, they import their flour. Oh, the pizza makers from Italy. Oh, they make the pizza in 60 to 90 seconds. There's certifications you can get if you follow all the proper rules for making this pizza. And it's a big deal here when people come on the tour and they say, oh, this place in my town, like they believe it or not, imported an oven from Italy. Then I know, like, okay, they also import all this stuff. They're Neapolitan. I get it. If you don't know what I'm talking about,
I think it's got to be one of the previous
we talked
podcasts.
About it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it is a big pizza trend.
So one of the big companies that everybody in America uses is Caputo. It's almost to the level of being like Kleenex, where it's like a brand name where you just assume like, oh, you're Neapolitan pizzeria, Caputo. So
non-Neapolitan pizzerias use Caputo?
Yes, some do, and that's actually why I was brought over to Italy, to Naples. So Caputo decided that they saw that a lot of people in America wanted to use their flour, but their flour is really tuned up for these high-temperature wood-fired ovens, and a lot of Americans don't do that. The higher the temperature of the oven, the faster the bake, the softer the crust. Americans tend to like snappier, crunchier crust. So that's a problem for them. Because if they want to build their business in America, they decided they needed a product that would work better in lower temperature ovens that would give people more crunch and snap. because a lot of places will take an American flour and then cut it with Caputo or vice versa and like kind of strengthen their dough. So they said, well, why don't we just make something that's right out of the bag what they want to use? So they brought over 5 people. They brought over this guy, Giulio Adriani, who's an amazing pizza maker. He had places in New York. He had places in Rome.
What are some of those places?
The place in New York is Forcella.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's his.
Yeah, great.
And then they brought over John Arena, who does Metro Pizza, and he teaches the only college course devoted to the history and culture of pizza.
What college is that at?
It's at UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Have you attended one? Guest
Yeah, I did, actually.
Okay.
It was amazing.
What'd you talk about? Boxes?
I don't remember. I think I just kind of gave a presentation about what I do, and it was cool. It was at his restaurant. You go to the restaurant.
Oh, for class?
For the class.
That's
and
fun.
then he feeds you.
Okay.
Amazing. So he was there. Michele D'Amelio. He is a Neapolitan guy who was brought over to work for an importer based in Jersey, and now he goes around and trains people all over the country how to make all styles. He called me up one day, and he's like, I want to learn Detroit-style pizza. And I was like, well, come to this one place in New York, but then go to Detroit. 2 days later, the guy was in Detroit texting me. The guy's he's an animal. It's amazing. Okay, Tony Gemignani, he has Tony's Pizza in North Beach. He's got Slice House in North Beach and in Walnut Creek, California. He's got Pizza Rock in Sacramento and in Las Vegas. He's got like 17 restaurants, and he's kind of the go-to guy. He wrote a book called The Pizza Bible. That was, I think, his 3rd pizza book. He's kind of like the rock star of the pizza industry. Mm-hmm. He's amazing. He's just a great guy. He always is like a main speaker at Pizza Expo. Amazing guy. So it was those 4 guys and me.
So this is a pizza dream team they've assembled here.
Yeah, it was seriously like just like I like being a bat boy for like the World Series team.
But you weren't a bat boy; you were part of the team.
That's the thing. It's like they turn to you and they're like, "Hey, bat boy, give it a whirl.
Right,
step up to the plate."
So wait, why did they bring you all there?
So they brought us there because they wanted to work on a new product that would satisfy the American population.
And they want you guys to test it?
Yeah, so they wanted us to test a bunch of batches. They wanted us to like formulate different recipes that would work really well, so they could send people recipes and say, do this and it'll come out great. So they wanted a bunch of us who all do different things so that all those brains combined would make something good. And I was pretty much there to represent the consumer. So they would all work. They would make doughs.
And you would just eat them?
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. Each of them would make doughs. I would sit there and like calculate percentages. So when you're baking, the easiest way to talk about recipes is in terms of, I'll make this so quick, otherwise people will fall asleep, baker's percentage. Every ingredient you use is referenced in terms of the flour. So if you use 100 grams of flour and 60 grams of water, that means you have a 60% hydration.
Okay. That makes sense.
If you use, and again, with yeast,
everything's given in terms of how much there is compared to the flour.
Exactly. Okay. So these guys would give a recipe, and I would sit there and calculate percentages. So then I can say, oh, interesting, John's is like 1%, is half the sugar of Giulio's, and it performed this way. And I got more crunch, or I got more sweetness, or I got more browning, or whatever. When I ate it, I would kind of dissect it. And I was keeping track of a lot because these guys have their hands in the dough. I was holding down the fort with the numbers.
When you go to Italy with a crew like that, you must eat at unbelievable restaurants.
Dude.
What did you eat besides the pizza you were testing? Like, what did you guys eat while you were there?
So, I mean, not to jump ahead too much, but there's a whole segment in the documentary about that trip. The trip came up when they had finished shooting the documentary, and they were like, well, we should probably go with you. And now it's like a whole 5-minute thing. So we went around to the best and most famous pizzerias.
That's in the movie. Is like you guys went, and I'm sure that's why I wrote this question. That you guys went to great and restaurants, the best. But what are they? What did you eat there?
I mean, pizza. Like here's let me just explain how every day would go. We wake up, we meet downstairs, we go to the mill, we start making pizza, we're eating it. and then we break for lunch where we go to some famous pizzeria that has a table, huge table set up for us. And then we go back to work doing the same thing. And then we go out to dinner doing the same eating. Crazy, amazing pizza. I mean, the places we went to it was funny on this trip we did a mix of like old famous and new hot stuff pizza places. Because we're going with the flour people. So a lot of these, some of them use their flour, some of them don't. But they all know each other. So we went to a place called Pizzeria da Michele, which is maybe the most famous in Naples. And it was actually pretty disappointing this time. I've been there twice before. It's pretty bad this time.
What was bad?
It was just too cheesy, like, and undercooked.
Was it bad for da Michele, or was it like not good?
It was bad for da Michele, and I think that it was just not great. But we went around the corner and we went to this fried place where they essentially are making fried calzones. Mm-hmm. And that place was incredible. I forget what it was even called, but that was good. We went to a place called Cinquanta Calò, which is this unbelievably light pizza. It was like the lightest pizza I've ever tasted.
Did you guys have like a key insight or learning at the end of the trip, that a conclusion you had reached through all the science in eating?
Well, okay, so one thing that we did with the flour that we ended up making was the local wheat of Italy is pretty low in protein. To get more snap and crunch, you kind of need a higher protein content. So we got them to use wheat from other countries that have higher protein. So that was one of the results. We also ended up, usually they don't add anything to their flour, but we had them add malt, which means it's a sugar that the yeast is going to be ready to digest. So it led to better browning. So the flour that we ended up producing is higher in protein and had malt, which is different from any other product they make. So the takeaway from that product was, this is going to be awesome for the American market. And I have been using it for bread and for pizza, and it's coming out awesome. But we also, in visiting these other pizzerias, we realized that that product that we made is terrible for Neapolitan pizza, or it's not great for Neapolitan pizza. I mean, the stuff we were eating was so light, and it's funny how it's not what most Americans really want.
But that was the goal, right?
It was. But meanwhile, we're eating. That's why it was cool to eat pizza all day and night, because it was so different what we had at, quote, work and what we had for, quote, meals.
All right, so you talked about it. Let's talk about it. The documentary. First of all, what's it called? The documentary is called Scott's Pizza Tours, right?
Yeah, it is called Scott's Pizza Tours.
And
which was funny because it was like I had no creative control. I had nothing to do with it.
You didn't make a documentary.
No.
Someone else made a documentary about you. And it is called Scott's Pizza Tours, and it is squarely about you. It is like not it's not really like a story about one thing you did. It is just like 15 minutes about the box collection, 10 minutes about how the tour got started. And like, all these things I've been trying to tell people about on the podcast and in real life for years.
Yeah. If you want to see it, rather than just hear about it, that documentary, it just kind of covers.
Well, it is fun to see a lot of pizza places,
to.
And also see you on the tours is really fun. And there's a lot in the movie. But I guess how did you come to have a documentary about you without wanting to make one yourself?
Yeah, because me, and I don't know if this is clear to anybody who knows me, but I definitely do not want to hire a crew to follow me to make a documentary about me. It's not my thing. And I was the one thing that I entered creatively into the process was I asked politely if they would maybe change the name so it wasn't just Scott's Pizza Tours, which they ignored, which is cool. It's fine. But I did not want that focus. Here's how it came up. So Ryan Jones and Sean Willis were the two guys who made it. And they have this company called Notice Pictures. They do documentaries. They do all kinds of video production stuff. And I had met Ryan because in 2012, I put up a post on Tumblr, which is what I use for just all my blog stuff. I put up a post during Hurricane Sandy that was look at all these pizzerias that are open because they don't require electricity besides their lights. And Tumblr called up Ryan and they said, oh, can you do a video about pizzerias that are open during the hurricane? And they had him call me or email me to figure out all this stuff. So we had sort of met over email. Then a couple years later, he started dating a friend of mine. So we started hanging out a little bit. They got married. we were hanging out more. And every time we hung out, he was always like, "Oh, I still got to introduce you to my business partner. I still want to do this film." And then eventually we sat down and they said, "All we want to do is just you send us your schedule every couple of weeks, and then whatever we can show up to, we will. And if you don't want us there, we won't, and whatever." And that was it. So I said, "Yeah, do whatever the heck you want. I don't want any input. Just do it."
Were you at all? Was there any trepidation because you didn't want to be followed around by a crew or anything?
No, there was none. And it's funny because after watching it, now it feels weird. But like at that time, I mean, camera crews come on the tour all the time. I'm used to it. It's cool because I know that this is this weird tour thing that to understand it, you kind of have to see it. It doesn't make like it's really weird when people introduce me at like a party to some of their friends and they're like, "Oh, Scott, he does pizza tours." And it's like that. It doesn't mean, I don't know if people understand what that even is. You kind of have to see it.
I mean, it's a very nice, I mean, now that it's done, how do you feel about it? It's like, it's really nice.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
It makes it look great.
Well, and yeah, but that's it's great because it really is just, luckily I know Ryan. I knew him beforehand and I got to know Sean really well during the process. So when they showed up to a tour, I was not even conscious of them, which is why it's weird to watch because it's weird. I'm weird on tours and you never know what's going to happen. So, like I just got so comfortable with them that they were hanging around for like 10 months. And at that time, it was just passive, like on my part. "Hey guy, oh, nice to see you again." And then they show me this hour-long movie and it's like, oh, it's weird to see it because it's just like nonstop me stuff.
Well, also, you have
for me.
family and friends in there.
That's also weird.
Talking about you and like, in a way, in the third person, in a way that they wouldn't, I don't think they'd talk to you about you, or in the ways that your family would talk to me about you necessarily, Like, it's like they're talking to, just driving you to a stranger. And so that's really fun, and everyone is really, like, what was it like hearing that?
So I've seen it twice, and both of those times were maybe the most uncomfortable I've ever been, ever. And people who were watching it with me both times said, "Hey, I got to tell you, like, watching you watch that it made me uncomfortable. Like it was hard."
What was the most surprising thing that like
I wish I had never seen it almost.
Oh, that's funny.
You know what I mean?
What was the most surprising thing that like you heard out of your brothers or your parents or any of your friends or anything like that?
Well, it's totally weird to hear my brothers talk about it because, it's just not a thing we talk about. It's like a thing that exists and, it's like what I do. But, I never need to say like, "Hey, what's your reaction to this thing that I do?"
Yeah, there was never a moment where like, I mean, obviously you told me you were doing it, but you never had a moment like 3 years in where you like check it in like, "So guys, what do you think about it so far?"
Yeah, I'm not going to be like, "Tell me, you're like, isn't this weird?" Like, come on.
Yeah.
So it's weird to hear them talk about it, and it's really, really sweet. I mean, they both say, my brothers say like really nice, just like awesomely nice things, which we don't, we just don't talk about.
One thing your older brother Dan says that really struck me was that you are now a New York celebrity, like the Soup Nazi.
He didn't say Soup Nazi.
He said like someone, didn't he?
I forget.
He compares you to some sort of New York celebrity.
He did.
Like some sort of New York. And I think that's pretty accurate, actually. Like, I think you're not a celebrity. Like, you're not like in Us Magazine or anything.
No.
But
nobody cares what I'm like when I'm tying my shoes.
But people, obviously in pizza, probably in food, and also in like other circles. Like your business is known around New York. I don't know. Did you find any? Did that ring true to you at all? Do you feel that at all?
Well, it's definitely is true to an extent because I'll do a tour with like a corporate client. Like last night I took out, I forget what company. It was like Spotify or if it's like, I don't even know. Snapchat. It was Snapchat last night. And, people are getting on the bus and they're all like, "Oh yeah, I've heard about this." Every person I say, if you say you're going on a pizza tour in like that world, other people say, "Oh, it's Scott. Cool. Have fun." They just kind of know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's awesome. It's just, look, we've had over 50,000 people in the past 9 years and, we've had a lot recently and, it's just such a weird, funny thing. It's not like, we're going to go to a bar and somebody says like, and everybody knows the bartender. It's like, it's beyond that in a way.
The other thing that's really fun about the movie for me, as someone who actually knows you, I mean, let me let you in on a secret here, Scott. Yeah. Everyone is constantly talking about you behind your back. Like, whenever I go somewhere and you're not there, people are like, how's Scott? Like, everyone's always wants to know how you're doing. And, like, this is not just me. Other people have given this feedback. Like, people are always asking about you and always saying nice things about you. So we're all used to it. And I've heard many people do it. But I haven't heard pizzeria owners really talk about you, because I don't know many pizzeria owners. If I do know them, it's through you when you're at the table. So it's kind of it was fun and interesting to hear the pizzeria owners kind of give their perspective on you. And one of them, I think, in talking about the Naples trip, talks about how in that trip you sort of crossed over from like being someone who was like a fan. You were at another level than fan, the highest echelon of fandom that you can reach, to someone who's actually impacting the pizza and like changing the pizza that people eat. Did you? I don't know. I guess there's a lot in there. What was it like hearing those people talk about it? And did you feel that at all?
Well, look, even just being invited to go on that trip to Naples, it's not like that company owed me a favor and like allowed me to come just because they knew I'd freak out. They didn't know that there was going to be a camera crew until like a week before. So like even just being there was an amazing, like, wow, they're like welcoming me into this thing. And over the years, it's been like, you and I went to the Pizza Expo before I was doing the tour.
Yeah.
And that was cool. We were fans. And now at this point, I know that I've crossed over from being just a consumer to being on the other side, because I speak at the conventions now, and I write for the magazine for now like 7 years. But it's totally weird.
What's that magazine?
Pizza Today.
Thank you. Continue.
So, but it's totally weird. Look, to hear people like John Arena and Joe Riggio from Pizza Suprema, like, and Tony Gemignani, like just all these people, Frank Pinello from Best Pizza, like they don't need to say any of that stuff. It's not helping.
No,
them.
Their enthusiasm is extremely genuine, and the respect is like obviously very genuine, and like, yeah.
Right. And the thing about it is that, and I think John Arena definitely said a lot of stuff about like crossing over, that I'm a fan, but I've become part of that whole thing. And I know he mentions at one point of the film that it's because I'm constantly trying to learn more stuff, and it's not owning or running a pizzeria is what lets me be constantly curious, because I'm not just focused on one thing.
I'd say the number one question I get about you, besides just how you're doing it, if you're still doing it, is when you're going to, if and when you will open a pizzeria. I'm telling you, you're like Poochie. When you're not in the room, everyone's saying, where's
like,
Poochie? Well, that's a Simpsons thing. And the Simpsons Homer's like, when Poochie's not in the room, people should be saying, where's Poochie? You're Poochie. When you're not in the room, everyone's like, where's Scott? How's the pizza thing? When's he going to open a pizzeria? A very common Scott question.
Yeah, I'll say right now.
The other one is
not opening a pizzeria.
And the other one's your brother calls out as the question people always ask about you, which is, how fat are you?
Yeah. How many hundreds?
Not at all, really. Someone actually Katie suggests in the movie, your friend Katie, that someone should hook a pedometer up to you. Do you have a pedometer?
Well, I mean, it's on my phone.
I do kind of want to know what your Apple phone... So Scott is not as obese as someone who eats this much pizza you might imagine would be at all. Scott's a very healthy person. You actually call your doctor in the movie. There's a scene where you call your doctor to get the cholesterol test results. Is that right?
I get my blood checked.
Was that tense? Because that could turn real.
Yeah,
I mean the news was good, but like that could be a real movie scene right there.
Dude, are you kidding me? It's like, well, I mean, because look, I definitely exercise. I eat pretty okay, but having the physical and getting that back, because I got to bet my family history with heart disease is rough stuff. So I got to be careful.
So your relief is palpable in that scene, like when the news is good. So wait, I want to see, because you are always moving, and it's insane, and you are insanely busy. So I am kind of curious what your iPhone says how many steps you take a day.
I'm curious. I'm not. I'll say this though. I'm not walking quite as much.
You're biking
because I bike a lot.
The phone knows that though. It gets in there. Look, the phone pedometer I don't think is completely accurate. This is not accurate, but I think it'll give us a ballpark figure.
Well, I'm actually going into my Oscar health thing, because that links up to this. But wait, I can't find the step. Oh wait, yeah, there's a little step icon, and this reads off what the phone already has.
Yeah.
So, and the phone like sits in my bag, so I don't know if it registers as steps. I'm probably walking less now than I used to, but I'm biking probably 15 miles a day. So it's 17,000 steps, 15,000 steps, 16,000 steps, 13,000 steps.
That's not that insane.
It's not. But it's because I'm biking a lot.
Yeah,
more.
all right.
Yeah.
There's one more scene in the movie that I really want to discuss, which is a real delight. I think it's actually like the cold open to the movie, which is you see a pizza plate on the ground and like just immediately go into pizza CSI mode and try to like figure out like where it's from and determine the origin. And can you is that something you do often? Is that a trick you pull off on the tour? Or was that like they just caught you doing it?
I'll definitely tell you this. If there's something that's a weird thing in that movie, absolutely not staged.
No, I don't think it was staged.
I'm just saying, like, but it's not even something that I look out for.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's a fun party trick. I'm wondering if that's something you do often.
I mean, if we're walking around and the mood strikes, then it happens. But it's not.
You see a plate and determine. Obviously, we'll never know for sure, but pretty confidently the origin of what pizza place.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. The thing is, that was I remember
based on,
that
like,
was
grease stain and location. Obviously,
yeah. I remember that was at Bleecker and McDougal. And there's 5 pizzerias on that intersection.
That's like the pizza alley over there.
Yeah, but it's not great. I mean, the pizza there is not great.
And McDougal?
Well,
yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like a couple of dollar places.
Yeah.
There's a couple of great ones. Fiore's over there. But that happens. And when that kind of thing can happen, like at one part, I think there was like a pizza box that we start talking about. And, you know, if we find stuff in the garbage, part of the tour is I want people to understand that there's more to pizza than just being a fast food, that a guy who eats it as much as I do is not necessarily going to be obese, that it's not just this junk food. So part of that is I tell that story by, there's a piece of garbage on the ground, let's analyze it and see the depth. So whether it's a pizza box or a greasy plate, it's like a fun way to do it. And it's also like, you know, you got to lighten the mood. Sometimes people are, you know, they're on a tour. Sometimes in the beginning of the day, they think, I just got to listen to this dude for 2 hours and then I can go do the next thing and check off New York pizza from my list. I want to make sure that that's like not the way they approach it.
Right, that it's fun, that you're setting a tone.
Yeah. So like you see a plate and there's like definitely an element of theater going on of, you know, trying to guess it is really true, but I could sit there and guess it like in an academic way or, you know, like in that scene, I know it's just kind of like weird and off the wall.
All right, we are running a little long, and I know you have to go, but I do want to talk about some of the... unbelievable is that amongst all these other things, your charitable efforts, of which there are actually 2 to discuss. Slice Out Hunger and Breaking Bread. Oh. Breaking Bread New York?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Slice Out Hunger we have talked about before, I think. Maybe? Jeez, I don't even know. But Slice Out Hunger is it was an annual event where you bring all the best pizzerias in New York under one roof, sell the slices for $1, raise money for City Harvest. It's wonderful. How much money did you raise doing this last year?
Last year was $50,000.
It's insane. I mean, I look forward to it all year. It's great. And but it's old news now. You're kind of adding a new gear to the machine, and I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, so we've been doing it as long as I've been doing the tours. So now this will be the 9th year. Now, instead of just waiting for once a year to have a big pizza party, we've now made Slice Out Hunger into its own nonprofit. It's 501c3. The IRS knows about us. We got all that. It's legit. And now we just finished our first nationwide campaign. So the idea is Slice Out Hunger does fundraising for hunger relief organizations through the American pizza community. That's our blanket statement. That's our mission. So the annual event in New York is cool, but we just did this thing where pizzerias across the country, 85 of them, had a featured pizza on their menu, and they would advertise that as saying $1 from each one of these, that everyone we sell, $1 is going to go to No Kid Hungry, which takes $1 and converts that into 10 meals for kids in need all around the country. So we just finished this thing for the month of May and raised, I don't even know how much yet, but a bunch.
Is there a way people can find a list of participating pizzerias?
Yeah, sliceouthunger.org and click on the button that says campaigns.
Would it be fair to assume that you're working with really good pizzerias?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to turn away a pizzeria, but they're all independent pizzerias. And when you look on the list, just the list of pizzerias that naturally gravitated to this thing are all awesome. And a lot of them are, you know, people I'm friends with. But it's great. Like Tony's is on there, Paulie G's is on there. Like, you know, all these like places that you know of. It's not just schlocky pizza places.
What inspired you to kind of, you know, make it nationwide?
Well, it was too good of a mechanism. It was like, it just felt like a waste to only do something once a year when we could do something that, like, you know, I know all these people across the country. Why only have a thing that's for New York. So people were interested, and they were starting to do it themselves. They were like, oh, I'm going to do a slice out hunger dollar slice night at my pizzeria. So then finally it was just like, well, let's see if we can make it happen. It's just hard because we're all volunteer run. So I pretty much run the whole thing.
All this, and also Breaking Bread New York. What's breaking? Now, this is something we have not discussed. This is new. What's Breaking Bread?
So that's not pizza related.
It's not pizza related. So I apologize to the listeners. We're not going to talk about pizza for a few minutes.
So, okay. So, political events have like kind of caused a bunch of us in New York, like food tour people, to realize that sometimes people are scared of other cultures. And why don't we just do food tours and dinner events that feature food from cultures that may not be so familiar to people? And like, we'll do that for fun.
So what have you done?
So we did a food tour of Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, which has a bunch of Yemeni and Syrian restaurants. So we took people to a bunch of those. We've done dinner parties at Persian restaurants, and we've got we did one that's like a Muslim-owned Jewish deli in Crown Heights.
Oh, wow.
Which we're doing another. We just scheduled 2 more of those. A Sudanese cooking class. Look, it's like featuring food from the countries in Trump's proposed travel ban. Is what it is. So we do. It's not a nonprofit. It's just like a collective that does these events where we don't raise. Well, we're raising money for other organizations, but we are just sort of like the middle.
What have you learned? I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's opened your eyes and you've met amazing people. Anyone who goes on this is going to be an interesting person. But what about food? What have you learned eating wise? Like,
dude,
so for people that are like Yemeni food, what is sell me on eating Yemeni food and finding my nearest Yemeni restaurant.
I had eaten Yemeni food once before this. I didn't know anything about this cuisine. The only thing that I knew was like, if we can get people to sit down and eat this food, maybe they'll understand that the people who make it and serve it are humans, and lead to a better connection. Yemeni food is like rice. Like a lot of this food is like rice and like a big old hunk of like lamb, super, super good, like great spices. The rice dishes at a Persian restaurant, there could be like 3 different rice courses, and it's just like a funky rice with like cranberries in it. And I'm like, whoa, never had that.
What about Syrian food? What's Syrian food like?
Syrian food, it has some similarities. The thing that I love about the Syrian food is they have these awesome desserts. They have these like kind of like a baklava style stuff where it's like flaky phyllo dough, but
I like that.
Super sweet. I had this thing the other day called kanafi, which is it's sort of like eating a bird's nest, like that kind of texture of like crunchy, like a shredded wheat kind of thing, but with super dense sweet goodness on the inside, and it's like drippy and sticky fingers.
Give me one more. What's like one other cuisine you've learned about through doing this?
Well, we did a Somali restaurant in Harlem, West Harlem, a place called Safari, and that place was awesome. They had this great dessert that was like a fried banana. That was it was ridiculous. So simple.
What is how much of your pizza tour skills are transferable to Yemeni food tour?
Very little.
Really? It's like a whole different ballgame?
Whole different ballgame, because I'm not really running a tour personally. There's a whole bunch of us who kind of do it together.
It's a different thing.
Totally different animal.
But like,
it's more of my organizational skills are being used.
But you know a lot about food, and like you must know something about rice. You know more about rice than I do, I suspect.
Probably not. Actually.
Really?
Well, look.
You only know about pizza-related grains?
Mostly. I mean, I don't know a lot about this cuisine.
You do so much reading about pizza. It is hard to imagine you're like, reading a book about rice when you already are reading books about salt and tomatoes, which, by the way, are books I have caught you reading. Everyone's read the salt book, but you've read like how many tomato books?
Probably 4 or 5.
Yeah, anyway, continue.
Okay, the thing about these tours is that I'm really curious, and I'm like endlessly curious about their grains as much as I am about flour for pizza dough, but I am not an expert in the cuisine, and so part of what we're doing is we're trying to get people from the cultures who we're featuring and have them really be the leaders. So if we're at the Somali restaurant, we had the chef come out, Shakib, and I wanted him to come out and talk about it, not just me. Like I don't want me to come out and talk about it. I want Shakib to come and talk about it. So that's why it's a really different element. I'm not. It's not like Scott's Pizza Tours where I'm in the focus. It's really like I'm just trying to pull the things together and highlight other people talking about their own cultures.
There is a way, correct me if I'm wrong here, there's a way for people to participate in this even if they don't come. Like, did you guys not produce a map of where these places are?
Yeah, so when we started, dude, it was crazy how fast this all happened. But we were trying to raise money for International Rescue Committee and like, all these organizations, ACLU. So we put up a map. Well, we had a map that we would email you if you donated $10.
Of New York places.
Yeah, places in New York that
only New
serve
York, though.
those.
You guys only did New York, right?
Yeah, but there's a DC kind of thing starting up.
Oh, cool.
And people from around the country have contacted us, and we basically, our goal is to make this an open source model that we say, you want to start one in your town? Here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the logo format. Do it. Let us know what you're doing.
Where's all that info?
BreakingBreadNYC.com.
Now, in the movie, I'm wrapping it up here. In the movie, you talk about, I think it's actually the last thing in the movie, how you don't really have long-term, you have short-term plans, like not long-term plans. And you like that because it keeps you, sort of flexible, and you do all these crazy things that, cross your mind or come across you, right?
But part of that is also because I'm just not good or not really comfortable with putting things in long-term because things move so quickly, and I love the idea of being able to take a concept and execute it really quickly. Because when you work in corporate world, it's all these back and forths,
right.
And I think I just like utilizing that. I don't have to do that.
Obviously, it's working out for you, and you're not just being lazy about it. Like, you really are acting on all these cool, crazy ideas you're having. I guess I'm wondering, like, looking back at the past hour of conversation, all the things we've discussed, like, is there a through line for all of this to you? Like, is there a North Star you are following when you make these short-term decisions of, like, a direction you're heading in? I
don't know if I've ever thought about this, but I think the idea with everything is it has to, whatever I'm going to do, it sort of like has to lead to education or understanding or somehow like being better off than you were before, or like leaving a room cleaner than it was when you entered it. Mm-hmm. That whole concept. I think that's really it. And if it doesn't do that, then I probably don't do it.
And so you're judging all these things against that criteria?
Pretty much. I mean, I've never really said it out loud or thought about it much. But, if doing something is not going to lead to that result, then I'm probably not going to waste time with it.
Well, whatever you are doing, Scott, you are always welcome. You have an open door to Jeff Rubin Studios. You are always welcome to come and talk about this stuff. I realized, I had Justin on last week. You're on. I think Gabrus is going to be on soon. I'm not doing the outros anymore, so I'll just mention that here. And this is maybe what's happening is this is all leading up to the 200th episode spectacular. Maybe this is like a.
Is your mom going to be on again?
No. I think what I'm going to do.
Your dad.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'll just tell people now because I was trying to figure out how I was going to do this. So I think it's actually going to be like a best of, and I'm going to get like best questions and answers from like specific interviews. So like one question and answer, and try to put like 10 to 20 of those together. And I guess as someone who listens to the show, thank you very much. I'm asking anyone who's listening to the show. I'm looking for suggestions for things to include there. There's definitely some that are on top of my mind, but I'm curious if listeners
greatest hits.
Yeah, it's basically a greatest hits episode for the show. So that'll be coming up. I somehow was like plugging you, and it like mutated into a plug for me. Let's get back to plugging you for a second. The website is, of course, scottspizzatours.com. How do I find you on social media and all that stuff?
It's either Scott's Pizza Tours or Scott's Pizza Tour, depending on the character count of the name. Twitter, Instagram, all that. Do
you have, off the top of your head, like a favorite Jeff Rubin Show moment that you would include in
That's what I'm trying to think of right now.
You are a devoted listener, which I very much appreciate.
Definitely.
And great trivia. You wrote and performed the theme song.
That is accurate, yeah. And we did it live at the live show.
That was great. That video's on YouTube
moment.
Too, yeah.
I definitely have listened to most episodes. This is
hard. This is so indulgent of me. Like, this is I love this last question.
What's your favorite? Yeah,
what's your favorite part about me?
Well, I love this because the whole last hour you're just like talking about me stuff, which doesn't make me super comfortable, but I realize the necessity of it.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't know. Like, I would have to go through and look at all the episode titles, but I definitely have episodes that I really have loved. like you know what I love is when I listen to an episode.
You
where
have
I'm
to
like,
name one, or no one's going to believe you actually listened to it.
Well, the Paper Airplane episode
That's
was one of my favorites.
That's on my short list for sure. I love that one.
But I can't remember. There's not like a specific question.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I just know going into that, I was like, I know nothing about this. This is going to be great.
The thing I talk about when I talk about that episode, which I have done, is the most interesting thing. I mean, maybe if I went back, there's something I'd find more interesting, but the bit that stuck with me that I thought was so interesting was how he recruited a thrower. Like, he needed a separate thrower, and he had to, like, audition a few throwers, and, like, the thrower was a part of his record setting. You guys, fellow Guinness Record world holders, maybe that's why you like that one. Part of that was, like, he had to, like, recruit someone for it. I thought that was so fun. All right, you have satisfied my requirements. I will let you go now.
I also was the remote control airplane.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
She, I think, emailed me once.
Yeah, I think she went on a pizza tour.
Yeah.
I think she mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not why I liked her episode. I liked it because it was cool.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, I do. After we turn this off, I do want to look at the list. Well, I'll give you my thoughts.
So, listeners, if you guys have any suggestions, all-time favorite Jeff Rubin Show episodes, or specific moments / questions and answers in episodes, maybe you got a time code, Andy. That'd be really helpful. I'm probably pushing my luck, but send that in. I'm gonna put all those together. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Scott, thank you for coming by and bearing with me the painful outro of this episode.
This is always a pleasure. And by the way, I love that you've got the Light Scale Lab sticker.
I got a Light Scale Lab sticker.
I just listened to that one.
Yeah, Justin, I got some lights. There's a postcard. I got some merch. Did you bring any merch for me?
Oh, no.
I got a shirt somewhere.
Wow.
All right, Scott, thanks so much for stopping by and all that.
Always a pleasure.
That was a HeadGum podcast.